Hello, this is Greg Deckler, and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. So I am recording this video. I actually haven't released. I did the rankings of all the completed ideas. Those aren't released quite yet, so I don't know about that. But the one from where I did the real-time ranking of the ideas, the planned ideas, and I also did the rankings of the top ideas, right? And do I expect people to watch these hour-long videos? No, I do not. But this is the payoff video, okay? Where now that I've gone through it and put in all the effort to get all of those ideas into Excel spreadsheets and rank them and do all that, right now I can report on it in Power BI. So this is the payoff video for that. This will be much shorter. So if you don't want to suffer through me, going through and rating all these different ideas, you can kind of get a sense of what's going on here. All right, so that's exactly what I did. So I took, and all those Excel spreadsheets, they should be up in the GitHub repositories by this point, and I'll make this PBIX available up there too. And so what I did was I went in and just imported the Excel spreadsheets, right? So here's my completed ideas. We've got our likey metric and that sort of stuff. I created a couple of real simple measures. We have our, oh, I'll get to this one in a second. Top ideas, right? That was the first one. Then we did planned ideas, right? And this ideas comes from Eladio Bardet. And Eladio, if I'm butchering your name, I greatly apologize. Not my intent. And the ing, my understanding is Eladio must be an engineer. So I wonder what kind of engineer Eladio is. Mechanical, electrical, uh, civil, or chemical engineer. Who knows? Process engineer. It'd be interesting to find out my background being mechanical engineering. So anyway, so yeah, I created some really ugly reports with the data. And this is, this I just kind of threw this together and kind of decided, hey, what kind of insights might I be able to glean out of this? So I didn't do a lot of work with these. So if they're not the greatest looking reports and that sort of stuff, then my apologies. But the first one, we'll cover the first one, the top ideas. So these are all of the ideas that were that had more votes than fixing measure totals. I think fixing measure totals at the time had like 682 votes. It's now up to about today, which is I'm actually recording this on November 16th. It is actually up to 724. So it goes up. I believe the average. I'm kind of trying to average it out to. It looks like it goes up about 3 votes a day these days, which is it's fine. We'll get into the top 50 eventually. And so you can see that there was 96 ideas that had more vote total than it did at the time. And the sum of all of the votes for all of those is 169,861. So quite a few votes going on here. I'll cover this a little bit more in a little bit, especially in relation to Eladio's data that he sent me. He provided me an Excel spreadsheet with like 5,000 ideas in it, which had to take a ton of work. I don't know how he compiled that thing because the idea site is not friendly to work with in that regard. But so it's a great data set. And he let I asked him if I would be able to use it and share it and stuff. He said like, yeah, go ahead. So awesome. Shout outs to Eladio. All right. So as you can see here, right? So here's the kind of like bell, I guess, sort of a bell distribution. But these are the number of so then we had those 5 metrics, I believe, and they were all rated 1 to 5, and we totaled them up because it's a sum. Um, and so I created this, just quick to see, and so obviously a lot of the most of the ideas, 29 of them, got the score of like 14 and things like that. And because it's interactive, we can see which ones those were and things like that. So anyway, I don't know if this is all that it's interesting, but it was interesting to me. It's like, okay, yeah, it has a general shape of a normal distribution in some regard, right? We can see that bell curve. And then what I did, so this is just a table that has all of the information, right? The different metrics that we used and the totals of these numbers, and then how many votes they have, and I add an index to it and things like that. I think the more interesting thing that I found out of this is that what I did was I went and created some calculated columns to basically group these into like so this is the first, so into bins. In this case, the bin is every 10. because that's how they're kind of displayed on the Power BI ideas site. So I figured, 10, we'll just group them into groups of 10, right? So this is the first 10. This is the top. These are the top 10 ideas right here with the most votes. And you can, and the interesting thing here, right? And if I also use that bins here, so this is bin, these are 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30, right? And the interesting thing I found was that the difference between the top votes and the bottom votes within a bin is really stark within, and eventually it levels out. So I thought was interesting. So it's really, so basically it becomes like exponentially harder to move into the, from the top 30 to the top 20 to the top, 10 essentially. So that's what the purpose of these max votes. So in bin one, the top vote has 9,475. The bottom one has 3,860. So it's quite a big difference between them. The difference actually is 5,600 roughly, and 15 exactly. There you go. And then the sum of the votes. So this one, so out of this 169,000 votes, like the top 10 have like a lot, like over a third of the votes, right? Actually 36.07%. And then you can see how it drops off, as it goes down. And there's that 5,615 difference. But the interesting thing is like you go in here and like, okay, they didn't really, at least I didn't score them very high, right? Versus like even the next, those are scored actually a little bit higher. There's more 15s in that. So still 116 and then 415. So a little bit better. And that's all over the board. And that's, pretty low. Yeah. So anyway, it's been interesting for me to kind of go through and play around with this, and see what I can do in terms of information or things that I can learn off of this. So again, I'm going to put this PBX out there. You guys feel free to take a look at it yourself, see if you can create better visuals and better reports than I just kind of threw together, or even better insights. I think it'd be really fun to, and if you do, share it out and let me know about it. And I'd love to see it. But the interesting thing is that, this difference between here goes down tremendously, right? So if we're looking at like right now we're in the top 90. So we would actually be in number, bin number 9. We would be here. Yeah, we're sitting right around 724 right now. And a few of these have gone up as well, but I think we're like 4 down from the top, which is this MySQL over SSH, which is still sitting there. Yeah, so we'd be sitting here. So if you notice, if you say like, okay, it's 3 votes per day, so that's about 20 votes a week. How long is it going to take us to get to the top 50, right? And so that was kind of why I was putting this information together. Like, so let's see. So the difference between so when we made it into the top 90, for example, right? Okay, if we're getting 20, we're getting 22 votes a week, or yeah. Why am I having problems with this? If we're getting 3 votes, 21 votes a week, 22 votes in 2 weeks, right? So we should be able to move from the bottom of the top 90 to the top into the top 80 in about 2 weeks, right? And we should be able to do that again. 2 weeks later, we should be in the top 70. And that's going to take us a little bit, right? There's a bigger difference in that top 70 between the vote totals. So we have like 923, and the bottom of that is 790. So that's going to take us, let's see, 20. It's going to take us a good 6 weeks to get out of that, 6-7 weeks to get out of that one, make it in the top 60, and then we're back to 86. Take us another 4 weeks, and then we should be in the top 50, right? And then then it starts getting really hard. Like if you wanted to move from the top 50, we could probably get it in the top 40, but then it's going to get really hard. Like that's going to be quite a few weeks to get it from top 40 to top 30, and then it becomes even harder, and then even harder, and then just impossible. So that's kind of why I put this together, was I wanted to kind of see where we were, and that's where I kind of again, I think we're gonna take another 15 weeks or so. We should be in the top 50, and then then I can stop with the memes, because that has been at least on LinkedIn and Twitter, and they've never said anything about gregdeckler.com. So this is the planned ideas, and again, you can see over here. So sum of votes, So 60,000 votes in planned ideas, 101 ideas. There are 18 ideas that are with more votes than well, not my idea. I was not the one to post that measure total. I'm just promoting it. And the planned ideas with less votes than fixing measure totals is there. So again, I put together this chart here, which says count of ideas and how many votes they have. And so this is ours obviously is right up there in the 20s. So there's 683 at the time. It's up to 724 now, like I said. And then, getting QA in Espanol in Spanish. So yeah, so I put this together, and I've been going through and clicking through. I'm not sure, it's kind of interesting. Like 16, so add folders to organize. So that's like top one, but it's like, it's you know again, if you notice, a lot of these with the top votes are not necessarily scored the highest. Like that's kind of an exception. There's a 15, but some of these are like sixes and like nines. Like custom order for legend. Again, keep going back to you can do that today. So anyway, so again, you can play with this. I'm not sure if I really came out with anything else. Yeah, so this is the average number of votes that the 15 has. So if I go to 15 and then, okay, well, that's not a very good representative example. 16, so yeah, that one has a lot more ideas. So they average about 587 votes. But the interesting thing to me again is that like some of the top scoring, at least from my scoring, right? And feel free to go do your own. Not a lot of average votes that are out there. In fact, the highest one is this 15, but that's because of that outlier. And then you have this one right here. Again, that's another outlier, I guess you could say. So anyway, I don't know if that tells you anything or not. Let's move on. So it's the completed ideas. Completed ideas, we were down to just thumbs up, thumbs down, what I thought was more important. So I came out with just almost dead on, a third of them were, yeah, you should have done that before measure totals. And the rest of it was like, no. And again, these are all my opinions. And again, a completed idea is 280,000, 1,314 ideas. And maybe that doesn't sound like a lot at first, but if you do the math on that, you come out with, you divide that by 7 years, let's say that the idea site's been around. So that comes out to about 187 ideas completed per year, which works out to about 15 ideas per month. So about every release of Power BI, they're knocking off 15 ideas, right? And then maybe it's a little bit double counting in there because there's some duped ideas. We saw that in the videos, or if you watched them, you would have seen it. And again, 100 ideas with more votes, and then 1,236 votes with less, right? And again, all of this is interactive, so we can see the highest one is scheduled export, the one with the most votes. Scheduled export to report to PDF, and you can see which ones ranked higher. But some of the interesting things to me was like there's a lot of, these are planned ideas and that we like, yeah. But look how many ones and one. These are all these completed ideas, and look how many. I'm scrolling. These are just the ones that we liked before we even get into double digits. So you come down here, maybe it's not a good idea to get, more votes for your idea. I don't know, because there's a lot of completed ideas with zero votes. Nobody wanted this. And we scroll and we scroll through the ones. Look how many ones there are that are completed. And then twos, and we're still scrolling. Threes, still up. Fours. I'm halfway up the scroll bar before I even get to the double digits almost. Crazy. And you see that same thing with actually with planned ideas. So if we got the votes here, so you start to see they really drop off just dramatically until you have a lot of planned ideas with just one or two votes, right? And this hierarchy expression, I love this one because the hierarchy expression is like, hey, there's not a lot to do with hierarchies, so you should add some more stuff to hierarchies. It's the idea. So I guess you could complete that one or plan that one however you want. You could make up pretty much anything. Hey, we made hierarchies a different color. Yeah, we planned it and completed it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being snarky. So anyway, that's the completed ideas. Now the cool one I think though is Eladio's data set. This is so he went out and got 5,000 of the ideas. And I think he went all the way to like the 11s, like the 11 votes. And so there's 4,400, 440,848 is the total vote total there, right? And you can see how much of it is tied up in like the needs votes versus planned versus under review, and versus like they're tagged as new. And I thought this was really interesting to me. So this is 440,000, right? And the top votes, that's 170,000. So that's almost, not quite half. But the planned is 60,000. Um, out of this. So, about a fifth, sixth, maybe. I don't know, more than that, more like a seventh of it, somewhere close to that. Anyway, I've had a lot of fun kind of going through this. You can see again, we just got a simple table here. I've got this slicer, so you could actually go through, and so there's the minimum 11 and 9,504. And he got this. It looked like he pulled this data kind of between when I was pulling the data. So you'll get different vote totals and different versions of some of these. But yeah, like there's planned is only 13% of all the votes of all those 5,000 votes that are out there. 60 whopping 65%, need votes. And then they're looking at another 20% of that 5,000. But again, it only goes down to 11 votes. Because there's 30,000 some ideas out there. But as you noticed, there are a lot of completed ideas with one vote or two votes, single digits, right? Same thing with planned. There's a lot of planned that are in the single digits. And then I don't use a lot of bubble charts, but I thought maybe this was a kind of an interesting way to view, the needs, votes, new, planned. And again, I used a binning technique, same binning technique, only I broke it down into like 24 bins. And so I did this again to well, maybe I shouldn't be getting votes. Maybe I should just have it sit down there at one vote and, how many completed ideas with 0 or 1 vote get done? A lot, but not, not as many as you'd think maybe. Although these are not completed ideas. These are ones that needs votes, news, planned, and under review. But okay, I was kind of like, all right, so is it a good idea or not? Well, it looks like it's a good idea, right? So because I can go here and I can see the sum of the votes, that's the size of the bubble, is 71,000. The count of ideas is 42. So that's the y-axis, right? So yeah, okay, more or less, for your under review, the higher your vote rank, right? Is more likely that your idea is going to get under review. So there it is. There's the proof, right? Versus these smaller bubbles and down lower in the Y chart. And same thing with your planned. It follows the same kind of pattern. It's a little more kind of all over the board. But you can see it drops off pretty quickly to nil, as far as like one idea, right? In these bins is planned. Maybe it goes up to 2, but that one really drops off just right. This one's kind of more of a gradual. The new votes are all over the board. And then you see, the same, this needs votes, again, there's a ton of votes right here. But there's a lot of them. But it's interesting to me that it's kind of consistent across all of the bins as far as the number of number of votes. There's 100 or number of ideas. There's 139 and that one 165. It's just it's just very even distribution across all of the different bins. And again, the bins, what I did was I came up and I went up 24 bins. That sounds like a good number. And then, I worked out the bins, the bin sizes and all of that using calculated columns and that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. So there's kind of under review, a little bit zoomed in, if you will, versus planned versus new versus your needs, votes. So yeah, I had fun putting this together. I had fun rating everything. Figured I'd at least, show you a few insights into these horrible looking reports that I put together. Obviously, I'm not going to be submitting these to an enterprise DNA challenge anytime soon, but maybe you guys can do something even better with it. I'll put the PBX out there on the Microsoft Hates Greg website. I cringe to actually share this in the data storage gallery because the reports are not good, but the data is excellent, especially a lot of those data set. I think there's a lot of potential that you could get out of that data set. So, and it's, you know, it's not a lot, not a ton of data. And he also includes, I think I got, no, I didn't. How did I not get the URLs in here? I'll make sure I get the URLs in here because he actually has in that Excel spreadsheet, he actually has the URLs as well. I'm not sure how that got dropped out of here, but I'll make sure I get that in there because it's, you know, then you have a direct link right out to the idea, which is really cool. So that's all I had for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.